Snow White, the power of friendship. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there lived a lovely princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as a rose, and hair as black as the night. Snow White lived with her evil stepmother, the queen, who was obsessed with her magic mirror. The mirror would often tell her she was the fairest of them all, but one day it dropped a bombshell.
"Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
asked the queen, fluffing her hair in anticipation.
"Once more, dear queen, you are fair, it's true, but Snow White is even fairer than you,"
said the mirror, reflecting an image of Snow White picking flowers in the meadow. The queen's face turned as green as a lime.
"Enough of this nonsense,"
she shrieked.
"I'll put an end to her beauty."
The furious queen summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and do away with her. However, the huntsman had a heart, and when it came time to carry out the wicked deed, he couldn't do it.
"Run away, dear princess. Hide. Be free, and I shall never tell the queen what the first have
He
done,"
urged, waving her off as Snow White dashed into the forest, her heart pounding like a drum. She ran and ran until she found a cute little cottage nestled between the trees. It was small but adorable. Inside, the house was a bit of a mess. Dirty dishes stacked high, shoes tossed everywhere, definitely the work of some very untidy little beings. Curious, Snow White stepped inside.
"Hello,"
she called out, but there was no answer. She walked into the kitchen and gasped at the sight of a feast fit for a queen.
"Who could live here?"
She wondered and couldn't resist tasting the food. First, she took a nibble of the apple pie.
"Yum,"
she exclaimed.
"it's delicious."
Suddenly she heard a commotion outside. The door burst open, and in came 7 chattering little figures, each one sillier than the last. They were the 7 dwarfs: Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Doc. "Who's been sitting in my chair?"
Grumpy growled, stomping over to find Snow White in his spot.
"Who's been eating my food?"
asked Doc, waving his glasses around wildly.
"Who's been nibbling my pie?"
squeaked Bashful, peeking shyly from behind the others.
"Sorry, that would be me."
Snow White giggled, her cheeks blushing like rosy apples. The dwarf stared at her for a moment before Happy burst out laughing.
"Well, at least she's not a raccoon,"
he said, belly laughing. Just then, Sleepy yawned so loudly that it startled everyone.
"Can we keep her?"
he asked, already drifting off to sleep on his feet. Grumpy crossed his arms, mumbling.
"I'll give her one night, but she has to help clean."
"We'll keep your secret. You stay with us,"
Sneezy said, trying not to sneeze while being overly excited.
"Chew. All right, I'll help. But let's have a cleaning party,"
Snow White said with a grin. And so the cleaning party began. Snow White danced around the cottage, twirling Grumpy's beard, while the dwarfs hilariously tried to tidy up. Happy was too busy cracking jokes. Sleepy was, well, sleeping, and Dopey accidentally used soap instead of sugar in the cookies.
"What do you call a group of musical dwarfs?"
Happy asked, his eyes sparkling.
"A dwarf band."
Their laughter filled the cottage as they decorated it with flowers and shiny trinkets they found in the forest. At the end of the day, the cottage sparkled, but so did their hearts. Snow White and the dwarfs became the best of friends, sharing stories and laughter every evening. Meanwhile, the queen discovered that Snow White was still alive and hatched a plan involving a poisoned apple. She transformed herself into an old peddler woman and approached the cottage.
"Lovely fruit, sweet child. Have a taste,"
she cooed. Snow White, being the kind soul she was, took a bite despite the dwarfs' warnings. With a single munch, she collapsed. The dwarfs rushed home, and their hearts sank as they saw her lying there.
"Sleepy, wake up.
Grumpy shouted.
This is a nightmare."
"We need to help her. Quick,"
shouted Doc, while Sneezy was frantically sneezing. Chew. As they fretted around, Dopey walked up to Snow White and gently kissed her forehead. To everyone's surprise, Snow White's eyes fluttered open. The dwarfs jumped up and down, cheering. "It's a miracle," Happy exclaimed. Suddenly, they noticed the queen hiding nearby.
"You can't be the fairest now,"
she screeched, but with a poof of magic, she fell into a pit of glitter. And so, Snow White and the 7 silly dwarfs lived happily ever after, filled with laughter and the promise of endless fun and a bit of a cleaning schedule. Snow White had found not only a home but a family filled with love, silliness, and lots of cookies just the way she liked it. The end. Check out my previous video,